wonderfulness. Yeah. This is the Lisa Baxter Show, giving you the 411 in the kidney world. My girl, and say, this is. Shh, don't say anything. I know we're not supposed to go outside. I know we were on lockdown, but I just want to go outside for a little minute. I've been in the house for 3 long weeks, and I just got to get out of here, okay? I was either going to go through the window or the back door, down the chimney, whatever I do, okay? So I'm going out, all right? So y'all be out here with me, but don't say nothing, okay? So I'm the only one out here so far. Wait, what? I see Sister Agnes. Miss Agnes? Hi, Miss Agnes. Hi. Hello. Big hug, girl. Big hug. Yeah. Okay. All right. Back up, Miss Agnes. Now I said back up. Back up, Miss Agnes. What's the matter with you? I can't afford to get sick. Oh God, with my mask, with my glove. Hey, Miss Agnes, I'm sitting on my own stoop, my own porch. Get out of here, Miss Agnes. I said, stop it, Miss Agnes. I'm going back in the house. You know what? I'm going to call that advocate on you. She does everything. I know she do. I got her on speed dial. That's right. Siri, put that girl on. What's her name? Lisa. This is the Lisa Baxter Show, giving you the 411 in the kidney world. Hey, y'all. How y'all doing? Oh, I hope well and good. Listen, happy Easter. Happy Resurrection Day. He is Lord. He is Lord. He has risen from the dead, and he is Lord. Don't you know that about Jesus? I know you do. Okay, we are going to get on with the show, but I just had to say to you, I was hoping that you would have a good night, and I thank you for tuning in. I got such a wonderful, fantabulous guest. This guy is too much. Let me read a little something about him to you. All right? First of all, he's a student. He does accounting at a hotel. He's a kidney and transplant warrior. And he hosted a show on this very network. Yes. The name of the show was Kidney Disease Editorial. The brother was bad. I ain't mad at him. All right. So I'm going to introduce him now. And y'all give him a big warm welcome. Kenneth Sorenson. Come on, Ken. What's up?
Not much. How about you, Lisa? It's good to see you.
Hey, it's good to see you. I'm alive and kicking, Ken. Yeah. I'm alive and kicking.
I can't imagine you not being alive and kicking because, I don't think you let many things get you down. So you just go with the flow. And if you can't leave your house, you change doing it some other way. So I know all of us in this kind of world of transplants and kidney disease definitely appreciate everything you do.
Oh, wow. Whoa. I'm getting an introduction after I introduce you.
Yeah.
I'm mad at you, Ken.
Well, you're one of my favorite people. You know that.
Thank you. You one of mine as well. And I thank you for doing the show. And I thank everybody that's looking and tuning in at the same time. And we just want to give them a blast.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think it's been since November since I've been on. So since I've been on any show. So it's nice to be back. I appreciate you inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome, because we're going to talk about that too. But we're going to start off talking about what type of work you do or did, or tell us a little bit about both the job and being a student.
Well, before I got sick, I managed luxury hotels for a good bit of my I'll say adult life. And then when I got sick, I just got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. Then I was on dialysis for about 5 years, that kind of thing. And the night I got my transplant, one of my old bosses, who I care about tremendously, visited me. She's like a second mom to me, and she said, "Hey, when you're feeling better, if you want to work a little bit in the hotel, let me know." And so I decided to do that. And then I'd always had the dream of going back to school, and like just kind of everything lined up. And so last August, I started back in school. It's been more challenging than I thought it would be, but it's been great. But now what I do is I work part-time at the hotel doing accounting stuff. And then I also work part-time at one of the Charleston County Housing Authority, helping out with human resources. Obviously, both jobs are on hold right now, but that's what I've been doing. I kind of do both of those to supplement, the income I have.
Wow. Well, that was nice of her to even care enough to, to give you that option. Some people, they find out you sick, something wrong with you. They be trying to either get rid of you or, make you more, I hate to say it because I've been there, make you more frustrated enough to quit or go out on leave or permanent leave. So whoever your supervisor is or was, kudos to her.
Well, and the good thing about her is she, like I left working with her when I got sick. But I've known her for, at this point, almost 18 years. And like the hotel, like literally like any hours you want to work, like, they call me anytime they have any opening that they need help filled with, I have to, it's hard for me to say no, but now I'm doing a little bit more of that, but I try to help out where I can because the company and this person's been so good to me.
Wow. Well, that's great. That's great. And they and they know about your illness.
Oh yeah, without question. Every single one of them knows. The guy that owns the company, his daughter's taken over the company now, but I've known her about 20 years. But he knows, like everyone I work with, because I try to use every opportunity I have to discuss transplants and how like I want to be an example to people that have never met anyone that's had a transplant to show what it can do. It might be a small thing in the grand schemes of you, but but to me, it saved my life.
Mm-hmm. Steve is saying adjust your screen a little bit, but you look fine to me. Maybe you don't look fine to him. But I probably,
I don't know what he means by adjust it. Okay.
My glasses is fogging up too. I guess because I'm hot. One of them flashes is acting up. But fader? Okay. Fader.
I know
you know what that means?
I do. But,
I know that's that good technical talk. Green screen?
Yeah, it has to do with this green screen. I might just switch from the green screen because I don't really want to mess with it while I'm doing your show. I'll just use the green screen in general. So,
all right.
So that way there we go. All right, there we're back. All right. Okay.
Woo, you technical guys is all right with me. I'm learning a little something. You know what I'm saying?
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, well, at my job, I was transparent about my illness because I did want them to learn from me. I wanted them to see my life in action, the good, the bad, and the ugly, see what God did for me, the whole thing. And so they could be a little bit more understanding. Sometimes they're real tough on me, and sometimes they could be too easy, but more like it's on the tougher side. But I'm a tough cookie, and I can take just about anything. So
I agree.
Anywho, okay. Let me ask you something now about being a student, because I used to, we text each other, we talk sometime, and you was telling me about you were being a student in the different classes. Tell us about that.
Well, right now I'm in my second semester of Spanish, and I'm in college algebra, which math has never. I'm really good at business math, but when it comes to more, I'll call it abstract math. It's not good. And being a student at 40, and actually this Thursday I'll be 41. Isn't the same. Thank you very much. Isn't the same as when you go to school when you're 20. Like you just don't have the same memory. School's changed a lot. Computers. I mean, they were just coming into being used in schools when I was in college the first time, and now everything's done by that. I was telling Steve that I have teachers that I'll never hear their voice. I'll never meet them. Wow. It's pretty incredible to think of that. But it's going well. I mean, I'm really hard on myself. And so I've had to learn that like some classes I'm just not going to get an A in. Like I study enough, like, I've had to resign myself. I've had to resign myself.
You don't have to go there.
Well, my thing is I have to resign myself that I've done everything I can do, or how about this, everything I know how to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm getting tutoring and stuff, but this quarantine's helped me out a lot because right now I have an A in that math class, which I'm amazed by, and then the Spanish class I'm pretty close to an A, and I might be able to pull one out. So this
was a blessing in disguise for you. So you know
Yeah,
about
yeah,
the hypotenuse. I used to love
yeah.
math. You know about the hypotenuse and stuff. And I'll go, como está usted?
It's usted. And you
All
would
right.
probably
Yeah.
and
I forgot. Yeah.
you would say como estás because you and I are familiar, and so you would
Right.
say como estás, and I would say
Yeah.
muy cansado. No, I'd say muy cansado y pero muy cansado pero muy bueno. I said I'm very tired but very good.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah. I mean, I've learned.
Well,
I
you
can.
must be better than the Spanish people. They haven't even got on my back about it yet. But I only know 50 words. But I
Oh,
ain't
fair
mad at
enough.
you. You keep studying.
Well,
You keep studying.
I'm
You
working my
taught
tail
me
off because
something.
my goal is to not get good grades in that class. My goal is to learn the language. So I try. I've caught up with people I go to church with that speak Spanish, and so I have try to have conversations with them to push me.
That's the best thing.
I listen to Spanish music sometimes. Try to listen to just because even if I can't quite understand it, maybe I can pick out enough things where I
Little
get a
things. Yeah.
general idea. Maybe the next time I'll pick out more. But
Wow.
I'm trying hard. I wanna do well. So
Well, so far you headed to that A, and you got balance. Look like you got balance in there, so I'm not mad at you,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
glad you're doing this kind of thing. Now, let's go down the road with your kidney story.
Okay.
How did you
Hmm.
find out that you had to deal or do dialysis?
Well, probably about I don't know 7 or 8 years ago. And I don't remember how I was put in touch with this person. I'm guessing it was from a primary care doctor, but I'm not 100% sure because, like, it wasn't a big deal to me at the time.
Yeah.
But I was sent to see my kidney doctor that I've become really close to, named Dr. Bradley Kalinsky, and he's a great guy. And very early on, he said, "Hey, you're heading in the direction of needing a transplant." But I still didn't take it particularly seriously. And then I started to, and that's when he was like, we're to the point where we have to put you on. He's like, I really don't want to, but your numbers are just scaring me a little bit more than they should. So he put me on dialysis. I started on peritoneal dialysis. I did that for about a year, but I was also having very bad stomach issues. My kidney disease is from diabetes, and so I also have gastroparesis, which is from diabetes, and it was a very severe case. And so I was in the hospital, for probably a 2 or 3 year period, at least half the years. And so they took me off of peritoneal because they're like, well, maybe that's making your gastroparesis worse. It ended up not, but like they were kind of grasping at straws. And so then I switched to hemodialysis. I actually, because of my veins and stuff, they couldn't get a fistula or graft in that would work for a long time. So I actually had a catheter for, I don't know, a year and a half. And then they finally got a working fistula in one of my arms. And it seemed like it kind of all worked together because I got a little bit before that, or a little bit before I started hemodialysis, I got a what's called a gastric stimulator or a gastric pacemaker. And they said it could take up to a year to work, but I was like, it was getting bad after a year, or around a year, it wasn't working. And then oddly enough, like really close to the time the year happened, it just started working. And so I stopped getting sick as much. I mean, I would probably regurgitate, I don't know, 75 times a day. Now it's, maybe once every 3 months. In addition to that, what it did was that allowed me to get on the transplant list because they wouldn't put me on because they were worried I wouldn't be able to keep down the medicine. And so once I could display to them that I was able to keep stuff down, I wasn't getting sick all the time, then they put me on the list. So it was nice. But dialysis, I tell people this still to this day, the toughest thing I've ever done in my life is dialysis. It's a tough thing mentally. It's a tough thing physically. It just attacks you from just about every angle you can think of.
Wow. Well, it can mess with your head. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes it's the frame of mind you got to put yourself in to do it. I mean, I did it 12 years. I had to go in there and just have myself ready, with my bag, my blanket, my snacks, or what have you. And, you know, I was an advocate. So that was another thing. I had to hear complaints and stories, and, you know, you go through those things, but at least you went through it, and you did notice what was good or bad about it. Because I wanted to ask you, what was your worst day on dialysis, if you had a worse day than what you are saying, and what was one of your best days?
See, I think it's hard for me to pinpoint my worst day because there was a period of time where I was just awful. Like, you know, I could say I never had any, I'll say, you know, quote unquote mishaps while I was at dialysis. The only problems that ever occurred were things that like just couldn't be prevented. Like my blood clots very easily. So when I had the catheter, it would get clot. I think I had it changed 7 times. It was on this side, sorry, 7 times, because it would clot constantly. And so there were all kinds of times where I had to wait for the, you know, the blood thinner to hopefully open it up. And then if it didn't, I you know, those kind of things. But, you know, I guess the worst time would be like, you know, there were days when I was so sick that I shouldn't have come to dialysis, but I knew I had to. And so there were a couple times where I got so sick that, and my blood pressure shot up and all this stuff, that an ambulance had to take me to the hospital from dialysis. So it was pretty rough. But you know, the thing that was tough for me with dialysis was like, you know, you're way more positive than I am. Like, I feel like naturally, and I'm one of the most impatient people you'll ever meet. And so sitting in that chair for 4 hours was one of the worst things I could be doing, just because I felt, you know, even though I had, you know, plenty of stuff to listen to, plenty of, you know, the staff liked talking to me because I was one of the kind of closest ones to their age, you know, that kind of thing, and I love the people at my clinic, you know, but just the idea of sitting in that chair for 4 hours was just so much for me to handle. And like, it became easier when I became less sick, obviously. You know, towards the end, the last probably 6 months or so, like, I hated being there and I would do almost anything to not be there. But I came, you know, and I'd say my best day, you know, you know, I know this is obvious, but the day, so I was on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday schedule. Okay. Well, my transplant was going to be on a Wednesday, but me trying to be proactive, I asked my doctor and the staff at the clinic if I could have an extra dialysis session. That way, when I go on Wednesday for my transplant, like, there'll be as little fluid on me as I could have, you know, my blood could be as healthy as it could be, that kind of thing. So my best day was probably that extra day. Like, I actually chose to go an extra day and do it for 4 hours. And, you know,
not many don't want that extra day.
Well, but you know, it's one of those things that I just had faith.
My sister's like that.
Well, and I just had faith that it was going to go well, the transplant, and that I wouldn't have to go back. And so my thing was, I had to set myself up for success in whatever came next, you know, because there's a possibility that kidney doesn't work right away, those kind of things. Luckily, mine worked immediately, but you know, and it was also a time for me to kind of say bye to people. I mean, I still go back and visit every once in a while. I normally every March, because it's Kidney Awareness Month, I bring like cupcakes or something like that, or I have been, and I was going to do it this month, but I was going to do it kind of in the middle of the month, but I called the clinic and was like, hey, I know I said it was coming, but I just don't think it's a good idea for me to come. It's like, when all this blows over, I was like, when all this blows over, we can, I'll do it again. I'm not, you know, they're like, no, we completely understand. Oh yeah. Well, and you know, at the time, South Carolina wasn't, I mean, there was hardly any, I mean, I don't even remember if there's any reported cases in South Carolina yet. But I was more worried about them than I was me, because a lot of people in that clinic are very sick. And don't get me wrong, I'm immune compromised. I understand that, but I'm self-aware enough where I check my temperature regularly, those kind of things, to try to pick on, but they're not necessarily at that point where they're doing that a lot. So so it's more because of that. But I still love the people at my clinic. My kidney doctor, he's not my kidney doctor anymore. He's a friend. I talk to him probably, I don't know, once a week or so. And so he's been incredible to me. So I've just been blessed to have some awesome people around me.
Wow. Well, you do make friends that staff. You know, one of my worst days, I think, is when they know I'm allergic to anything in the penicillin family, the mycin and all of that. So I'm sitting on the phone, sitting on the dialysis machine and talking to my sister on the phone. All of a sudden I start I mean, really, really, throwing up so much. And I'm like, what did you give me? I told you not to give me that. And I'm like talking to them. They were scared to death. I mean, they did everything to help me, but that was one of the worst ones. And falling backwards in the chair trying to go home with my husband, I think that was worse because they thought about taking me to the hospital. But did they give you dialysis before the surgery? Because they gave me dialysis before the surgery. And it was so quick. I don't see why they put the needle on my arm for when it was 15 minutes or 30 minutes of dialysis if it was an hour. You know what I mean? So I'm like, what?
I was lucky. I think maybe because I had gone just the day before.
Right.
And I didn't retain a lot of fluid in general. And in addition to that, because I still urinated some, it wasn't a crazy amount, but and I think the other thing was, I don't know. My surgery was pretty early in the morning, but no, I mean, they, and actually the wait for it wasn't crazy long because, how sometimes you go for surgeries and, you're waiting 3 hours to get in. Like I probably was there, because they have to get you ready in the, pre-room. And like, I was probably an hour and a half. It was, and I don't think it could have gone any better for me. So I was, I mean, I tell people all the time that stuff can't be coincidence. And even like, the fact that a stranger, living donor donated to me, coincidences like that just don't happen.
Wow. So it's a living donor you got?
Yeah. I'm good friends with her. Her name's Tiffany. She lives about 2 hours away from me. I live right near her. I had her on my show before. She's amazing. We've become really good friends. And I can't imagine my life without her now. She's an incredible person, and I'm lucky to know her. Obviously, I'm lucky to have her kidney, but I'm lucky to know her.
So you didn't get a call because you already had your donor?
Well, no, I didn't. See, what happened was I was really on the transplant list for a year, but you know how it works. Like once you get on, it dates back to when you started dialysis. So
mine wasn't like that. But go ahead. I was on so long that that's why they put me at the top of the list. But go ahead.
I gotcha. So I was a backup 8 times. And actually I got the call about this donor on the 24th of January of not this past year, the year before. On the 22nd, I was the backup for a kidney. So what happened on the 24th was I got a call from my cardiologist, and they're like, you need to come in and do a stress test. I'm like, well, I have one scheduled for next month. I don't understand why I need to do a stress test. And they're like, we have no idea why, but like MUSC called us and said, you need to do a stress test. I'm like, all right, whatever. And when I was getting off the phone, she's like, that usually means you have a transplant waiting. I'm like, okay, that's odd. And that was at like 9 o'clock that morning. Well, at 6 o'clock at night, the hospital finally called me and said, hey, we have a complete stranger. All I can tell you is she's a 35-year-old female that wants to donate to you. And I was like, and she's like, yeah, she doesn't know you. She just wanted to donate to someone, and you happen to be the best match. And I'm like, oh, okay. Wow. And so when we did the pre-screening for the transplant, they asked me and her if we wanted to meet afterwards. And of course I said yes, and she said yes. So we signed this paper saying we wanted to. And then at 7 a.m. the morning after the surgery, my nurse came in. She's like, your donor's walking around. She wants to know if she can come in. And I'm like, well, of course she can. And so we met then, and I've gotten to know her family. She's just an incredible person. What she originally wanted to do is she was going to donate to someone else, but unfortunately that person got too sick. And they waited about a year, and they were finally like, yeah, we've even lowered the standards slightly, and she still doesn't seem to be getting there. And so my donor's like, man, I've already prepared myself. Can you find me a match? And I happen to be the match.
Well, since you got the kidney, did you have any issues or problems? How much medicine was you taking? That's too many questions, but answer one first, okay?
No, I can go through that. So first of all, I've had absolutely no problems, none at all. I've never even had a time where they were even particularly worried about what was going on with me. There's been some times where they've had me redo labs and stuff because they thought the readings weren't right, and they ended up being right about that. So I started out, I believe I counted, I had 18 different pills I was on to begin with. And now I'm down to, I take Prograf 1 milligram twice a day. I take the generic version of my Fortic, and I take 540 twice a day. And then I take prednisone, and those are the only transplant medicines I'm on. I'm on a couple others, but nothing major. So I'm on very little medicine in the grand scheme of things now, which is incredible to think of. But yeah, I've had no setbacks. I've been very blessed that I was given this gift, and it's been given to me 10 times better than I could have anticipated.
Wow. Now that's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I mean, you got some. Was you ever scared that it would fail, or scared or afraid that it would stop working, or it was a sleeping kidney? They say sometimes it's sleep and they send you to dialysis to wake it up. Were you afraid of anything like that?
Well, I tell people that the fear that I thought I would normally have had before I went into the transplant, I didn't have it because I wasn't even worried about passing away on the table. Like, my thing was the life I had at that moment wasn't the greatest. So I only could think that it would get better. And yes, I could have been wrong.
Wow.
But like, I just knew that I didn't like where I was, and the only way for me to not be where I was to do this. So I kind of was at ease going in. I mean, I had the normal kind of jitters, but when it comes to like fear afterwards, oh heck yeah! Like, every time I get blood work done, I'm scared they're gonna call and be like, hey, we think it's failing. There's always a little bit of fear, and I hear it gets a little bit better the further and further you get out. But I'm kind of I'm working on it now, like in therapy and stuff. Is I have a lot of anxiety anyway in general, and so I definitely have anxiety about this, but I just kind of have to trust that this is whatever wherever the road takes me, that it's taking me where I need to be, not always where I want to.
Amen. I love that. Come on now. I love that you said that. You know what I mean? I went on there at the table too with no fear. I said, the same God that kept me 12 years on dialysis will be the same one to keep me on that transplant. And every time the doctors and the nurses would come and try to check something, I said, there's nothing wrong here. There's nothing going on here, but they checked. And they said, oh, Lisa, you was right. I said, Hannah is good. I called it Hannah. Hannah is good. And to this day, they still call it Hannah. And I almost had the kidney for years, June 29th.
And that's awesome.
Hallelujah.
Exactly.
God is good. I appreciate it. Like you, I had a really good life. In spite of the losses of burying siblings and them being on dialysis, we did live good. So, the long or the short of it, God was always there and he kept us. I think that's was the main thing that kept me sane. Because like you, I could get pent up and stuff like that there, but I have to relax, you know what I mean? Quote a couple scriptures, lay hands on myself if I had to, Father God, Jesus' name, something, but it's all good and it does work. And if I wouldn't be here 57 years old today if I didn't trust him.
Well, the other thing I used it as too, Lisa, is like, I know that I was left here for a reason.
Yeah.
And at this point in my life, I don't know what that is. But what I know is I'm doing everything to prepare myself for whatever that reason is. I know it's to help people. I know it's to help people. I've always had kind of that heart. And I'm pretty sure it has to do with people with either kidney disease or transplants or both. But I know that like me going back to school and other things I'm doing them in preparation for whatever I'm supposed to be here doing. And so I'm kind of using this time in my life as kind of like a training ground. Like, this is, I'm getting in shape for whatever I'm supposed to be doing. And I think I'm not supposed to be doing anything particular now because I haven't been sent there yet. So I feel like I'm being taught a little bit of patience and a little bit of trust and all those things. And I'm just getting ready to, I'm expanding myself mentally. I'm expanding I'm trying to learn stuff about myself so I know how to better use it to help people, those kind of things. We're all given gifts. How do you use them is what's important. And so I used that chance opportunity of a stranger giving me a kidney to show me that what you're meant to do, like I worked in luxury hotels, what you're meant to do is help people that need it. Not that people that stay at hotels don't need it, but there are people out there. When you spend time in a dialysis clinic, you're an advocate, when you spend time in a dialysis clinic, you realize that how important it is to that there's so many people out there that need help, and there's got to be something I can do.
Amen. Beautiful. Oh yeah. Now you on the show now. So somebody that needed a transplant needed to hear your story. Somebody that's on dialysis needed to hear your story as well. Somebody maybe, who knows, somebody that might maybe wanted a job working in a hotel or working, or going back to school, worried that they was too old to go back or think they couldn't do it. You've done all of those things right there. That's a big thing right there.
No,
and the fact that you even did a show, and I'm going to talk about that, but say what you want to say first.
Well, you're exactly right. And every time I talk to people, I obviously tell, my transplant story, but I also try to talk to people and find out where they're, because like one thing about humans that make being human being great is we can commiserate, we can relate to other people. And so what I try to do is when I talk to people, I try to find the way I can relate to them. And because there's been all kinds of times in my life where there's been someone that's come by that said something that even if it was small to me or to them, it helped, guide me to where I needed to be. So you're right. Listening to people and telling your story and not being afraid to is definitely something that I feel compelled to do, because if I can help one person, then I've done more than I need to do.
Wow. And apparently, I hope that you have good support all around you. You seem like you do.
Oh yeah, without question.
Amen. Amen. Now, you started your show. What made you start it, or how did it start? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I have such a bad memory. So I think what happened was,
what you got.
Well, what I remember is, I believe Steve found me and he asked me if I'd be on Jared's show one night, Warrior Quest. And so I was on it, and then, oh, no, I'm sorry. I was on Steve's show first. And then Steve asked me, he's like, he sent me a text afterwards. He's like, I thought you were pretty good. Do you mind co-hosting Warrior Quest with Jared one night? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so we had this lady that she's gotten a transplant. Her name's Andrea. And we were having technical difficulties. Like for a lot of the show, we couldn't hear Jared. Things like that.
I remember that show. Yes.
So instead of me just kind of clamming up, I just started asking her questions. And when I got done, Steve was like, hey, are you interested in doing your own show? Because I liked how you kind of just jumped in and you obviously like talking. And so I started that. And how I started my show and why it was called Kidney Disease Editorial Edition with Kenneth Sorenson is how it started was I was just going to talk for basically, was it an hour at first? An hour about like kind of kidney related topics. And then really quick, I realized, not that I mind preparing for a show, but the amount of preparation in order for it to be at the quality level I wanted to be, to do a show of just me talking for an hour is difficult. I would probably put 15 hours in for a 1 hour show. And what I started to do also is I started meeting more people within kind of our community, and I met some fascinating people that I was like, you know what? I want to hear their story because I think they could add something that I don't know about. Or I used to joke that it was kind of selfish. I had people on my show that I wanted to know more about. And I figured there's some pretty good radio personalities that are amazing interviews. And one thing they say is I have to put people on the air that I find interesting, because if I find them interesting, then the interview will go better. That kind of thing. And so I always had people on that I found interesting, that I thought could share something with me that I didn't know, or added a perspective to this journey that I had no idea about. And I'd say almost every show or every guest I had, I had someone on that was very interesting that I learned something from. Like not only did I have you, Steve, and Jared, I had my kidney doctor, I had a nurse. I had a nurse at my transplant clinic. I had there's a doctor here in the Charleston area that's very well known. He serves minorities in the African American community. That's what he's made his life's passion. And his name's Dr. Thaddeus Brown. I had him on. I had Dr. Ken Sutha, who's a is a kidney
Oh yeah.
transplant recipient and stuff.
Surely, yes.
I mean, I had a good amount of people, interesting people on, and I tried to make it a place where I could kind of, you know, push the idea of what I know and what other people know about the disease. Like, we all know our stories really well. I wanted to learn other people's stories really well because
Yeah.
I feel like I could be a better advocate the more unique stories I heard and got to ask questions. And I mean, I definitely took time. Came up with my questions beforehand. I would spend, even on the interview shows, like I wanted them to be as good as they could be.
Oh yes. Wow. So, well, what made you stop doing the show, or what made you couldn't do it anymore? Because I understand everything about shows. Trust me, I did my show 9 years.
Yeah,
I did
yeah,
it 1 year on this thing, and it takes a lot of work. It does,
it
really
does.
does.
Well, I think what kind of happened was I was debating whether I wanted to do it a different way, and then there was some stuff going on kind of in the background in general that seemed like it was going to bring would probably lead to the end of my show.
Mm.
And so what I decided was like, because school was getting tougher, it was kind of like a kind of a ton of
So
things
wait,
added together.
I understand. Yes.
And there was a ton of stuff coming together, and I was like, you know what, like I feel like I can't, well, the kind of the term from the Bible, I can't serve two masters. Like I could
All
hit
right.
I could hit
Love one and hate the
advocacy.
other. Mm-hmm.
Well, I could hit advocacy really hard, or I could hit my school and kind of bettering myself for the future hard.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like I could do both very well, and I didn't want to ignore either one. Or how about this? Give a half effort on either one.
Right.
So I decided, I'm going to take a break and do. I actually have, like, I've taped a few interviews with just people I ran into that I like and stuff like that, that I found interesting. I taped them on Zoom actually, and I have them, and I haven't released them yet, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of, maybe one day I will. I don't know. I just know that what I'm doing right now is where I need to be, and I'm kind of
Right.
more active in the local transplant community, as opposed to, kind of national. Like, it's one of those things that you kind of have to, you try to take care of home first before you try
I ain't
to kind
mad
of
at you. Mm-hmm.
minister to other people or advocate for other people.
Yes.
Like, there's a lot of
Okay.
people, within 6 miles of my house that need help. So
Mhm. Yes. Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, then that's great. Well, I was glad that you did the show, and I was glad that we could still even see it on Urban Health. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Some of them are on YouTube, right? And I'm sure
yep,
you probably have some of them somewhere. And I know
yeah,
Steve got all of them. So that's
yeah,
wonderful. Now, is there anybody? Because I know Steve has got to do a show after this one, and he's helping us out.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
is there anybody, anything we left out, and anything that you would like to say before you give your shout out to who you want to give your shout out to?
Well, I just want to say, I want to thank everyone from, that's been involved with Urban Health, because you guys have helped me a tremendous amount. And the reason I'm on this show in general, not just because, I'm a kidney warrior, but part of it's because, Steve, Jared, and then obviously, other people that are kind of associated, obviously you and Dawn, like you guys are all my big supporters of
Uh,
me. Stephanie, there's all kinds of people that were big supporters
Lisa,
of me.
well, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Mhm.
I didn't have I didn't know that I had an interesting story, and that I was decent at telling it until you guys told me I was. And so that definitely helped me out a tremendous amount. But one thing I want to say to everyone real quick is, hey, those of you that are on dialysis, man, I know it's tough. I mean, I know it's tough. I know there's days you don't want to go there, that kind of thing. And it's easy for me to say, think positively. That wasn't easy for me either. But just know that there's a reason you're there, even if you have no idea what it is. And just stay as strong as you can. If you're having a bad day, there's all kinds of us out there. Reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help you in any way we can, even if it's just listening to kind of you vent about how miserable it is. And just know that there are people out there that care about you, and don't ever feel alone. Okay, reach out to me. My name's Kenneth Sorenson. Find me on Facebook. I'm more than happy to. I don't get on Facebook much, but if you send me something on Facebook Messenger, I get that. So you're not alone. All right, just know that we know what you're going through, and we appreciate you, and we're here for you.
Wow. Well, any shout outs before I end the show?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have to give a shout out to my family. Without my mother in particular, I wouldn't have gotten through that. I got to my niece, my first niece, was born a week before my transplant at the same hospital my transplant was in. So I wouldn't be enjoying her first year of life if it wasn't for my family. Obviously, Tiffany literally saved my life. I want to thank my kidney doctor, Dr. Kalinsky, and I want to thank. I've got a great, a good group of friends now. My friend Heather, that's my oldest friend. I've got a friend Jamie who's been really good to me since transplant and things like that. So I've got a great group of support, and I couldn't have done this without them.
Wow, beautiful. Well, man,
thanks again for having me on.
I thank you for being on. I thank you for your time, your effort, your energy, your hard work, and your passion. Passion. So
yeah, well, Lisa, I've talked to you about it. Like you're one of my role models when it comes to most of those things, because there's no more passionate person that I've met when it comes to helping people. And it's not just kidney and transplant things. I mean, you send me things sometimes that have nothing to do with that, just because you thought you would think I'd want to see it. So I appreciate everything you do, and there's a lot of people out there that has made it through this journey because of listening to your kind words in general. So thank you very much for having me on.
Well, thank you, kind sir. Thank you for paying it forward.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
All right, you nice too. And
happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Happy Easter.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, you guys had the long and the short of it. Didn't I tell you? And I kept my word. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy your family. Enjoy God. Enjoy this day. And thank you for tuning in. I love you from the bottom of my heart. Blessings.
Y'all ready for this? Yeah.
This is the Lisa Baxter Show, giving you the 411 and the kidney one. My girl, and say, this is